For the afternoon for Crossroads 2015, our first presenter is Dr. Edgar Blanco. My colleague Edgar is the Executive Director of the MIT Scale Network in Latin America. He is also a Research Director here at the MIT Center for Transportation Logistics and has a lot of really interesting research that he's done that I think many of you, if not all, would find very compelling. In particular, he's done groundbreaking work in the area of carbon footprint assessments and sustainable supply chains. But today he's going to be speaking about some of his work focusing on megacities and the logistics challenges that exist in megacities. And I think that you'll find his talk fascinating, and it's a pleasure to have you, Dr. Blanco.
You should wait for my talk, see if you like it. Also, I think that you failed to mention that I'm a Georgia Tech graduate. Where is Chris? Where is Chris? All right, good. Thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to participate in this event. And when we're talking about the topic, they wanted me to talk about the near future of cities. And I don't like the near future, especially when it's being taped. Usually means that I'll be wrong, but I'll still give it a shot. But I will not follow the advice of my colleagues, and I'll actually talk about the past, the now, the future, and the really far away future, even though the really far away future may not be around, but that's okay. So let me start with the past. And as Jim mentioned, about 4 years ago, as part of our work in Latin America and in Asia, I started doing some work on urban logistics. So this is a slide back from our 2012 Crossroads, when we were talking about the Mega City Logistics Lab and some of the work we're doing there. And I was very excited. I just had come back from Beijing, and I was spending some time there looking at urban deliveries. And I was blown away by the same 3-hour window delivery that was being offered in Beijing. And that's my colleague from Tsinghua University. And we're buying this camera. And some of you have heard the story. And we were in the office, and we got it from 9 a.m. at noon. We got the camera, and that was the moment he was receiving the camera. And that was, I hope we had something like this in the US. And I was so eager to share it with you, and I talk about it, about why it was unique in those cities, why it worked in Beijing, what was Jaedong doing at that time that was making this possible. And actually, it was not aggressive enough, I guess, because this is November 2014, and that's Amazon same-day delivery service in the US across several cities. So we have it. How many of you have used it? Do you like it? It was fast. That's a good way to get over. But did you enjoy the feeling? Exhilarating? Okay. I had that. It was great. Instant gratification, instant feedback, I guess. As Chris would say, instant feedback. You get it to your door. Now you're always anxious exactly where they are if you're going to show on time, but that's a little bit of the future. So that's one thing that has happened, and just of course, working in this field everywhere I go, and I was here with my wife going through some linens in Bed Bath & Beyond. So this is a picture I took last week. And if you go around and you start seeing all these advertisements of home deliveries from our store, so just last week I noticed actually Bed Bath & Beyond also offers same-day delivery from their stores here in Boston. That's a map. That's the store where we go shopping. In South Bay Center, we live just 7 minutes away from the store. But what the hell? I have to use it, right? This is what I do. Even though I buy one item, I still got the item. I was very happy. And then for this talk, I was very excited to tell you how innovative this was. And actually, Bed Bath & Beyond have been doing this since 2010. Yeah, in New York City. So things are moving very fast. Just we don't know they're moving fast. And many more things are going, and you probably have either as a customer or by reading the regular press, this is all over the place. You see companies like this. If you have not heard at least one of these companies, read more, because they are there everywhere. So we have Postmates. I think doing some partnership with Starbucks recently on delivering from Starbucks stores, Instacart delivering groceries, despite the big failures in 2099 with all these web and all these companies. Now grocery shopping, online shopping is back with Instacart. They have a crowd-based model. They go to the store where you usually go. They do the shopping for you, and someone else takes it to your home. The Leave does something similar, but from shopping malls instead from stores. So there's all this activity of like last mile, city, same-day delivery. But I was still not convinced this has arrived until 2 weeks ago. Uber Chowder. So Uber Chowder is, that's it, right? When we have Uber Chowder, we are here. So this was in the 13th of March. Uber between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Anyone in Boston could order chowder. They will get it to your place, any place you pick. And there was a donation behind it. They were working with the food bank. But this is a little bit scary. Not because I want to ride an Uber after 3 p.m., after being delivering chowder all day, but it's just, what is this? What is going on? Are we in the future now? Is the future this? Is the future going to change? And that's what I want to talk today a little bit more. Is this the near future? Is there something else going to happen? Why can I only get Uber Chowder in cities? Why don't you have Uber Chowder? How can you get, and when will you get Uber Chowder? So I want to give you a sense of what it takes for Uber Chowder to get to you. And finally, what else lies in the future? And those are the kind of three things I want to hopefully cover today to give you a perspective of what is happening in last mile delivery. So I'm not sure if this is what I wanted to talk about originally, but Uber Chowder is something too big to resist. So we have to get a little bit more academic here to get started. So we just talk about the buying process. Most of you have seen it one way or the other. I've made a little variation on the buying process just to emphasize a couple of things. So usually we talk about traditional retail buying process. We start with some discovery phase. That's when you kind of get to know what you want through friends, websites, et cetera. Then you decide to really go for that item, search phase of the buying process. Then we actually buy it. At that time, usually you do not use to differentiate the buying from the delivering, but nowadays we have to see those as two different steps. Buying, then you get the delivery, and then you do return if you need to, or do any other services after that buy. So the traditional way of doing this was the retail store, the point of sale. So all the discovery happened through a combination of store displays, media, maybe some word of mouth, and eventually the whole goal of all that was to get you to the store aisle, walk in the store, and eventually get to a cashier, pay for the item. And there's always been courier services everywhere. In most department stores, you can still get it today. And then you just expected to carry it home. And when you were done, if you were happy, you keep it. If not, you should have to come back to the store and return the product. So that was the traditional retail model. We have always been thinking of retail, and you probably all are very familiar with this. And then we got e-commerce after 1996, 1998, 2000. We got into the pure e-commerce model. And that's kind of the pure e-commerce looks like this. The discovery happens in a website, maybe on the store. But that discovery phase was really geared toward getting you to the website. Remember, we had our computers, 286 processor, right? Feels like ancient past. And you went to the website, and then in the website, you did the purchase. And then from that purchase, then some parcel showed out of a DC showed in your house. And when you were done, if you did not like the item, then you return it. After a few years, retailers figured out this is really for real, it's going to stay longer, and they developed this multi-channel buying process, and they kind of combined these two in one, but they still saw it as a very separate path. You used to have stores where you hope to get to the aisle, the checkout. From the checkout, you carry it home. And then you may have a website that drives some volume to the store, but it was mostly for you to buy through the website. You buy from the website, you get it, and then couriers or any other way get it to your home. You can return it through the store or to the same channel you buy. Then there was innovations going on. And everything was happy, and that was 2005, maybe? 2006. We're delighted. We're building huge distribution centers to support the website. It was just 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, and then suddenly something happened. January 7, 2007, the iPhone was released. Most people didn't know what to do with it. I, of course, bought the first iPhone and paid twice as much money. Got a refund because they did not get the pricing right. At least they did get it right for me, but not for the rest of the world. So I paid whatever he asked for it. And the iPhone kind of changed everything. It changed in such a way that this is now how today's buying process look like. Yeah? We were happy with our little compartments. That I like. This I don't understand. But this is today's buying process. This buying process is what got us to where we are now. The buying process broke these barriers between those 2 or 3 channels. And what the iPhone and its ecosystem, and of course the Samsung, everything that goes around it, now has a disruptive buying process. It's a process where, first of all, I have the cell phone adoption was going up, but it was still, LOL, kind of thing, SMSs, not very engaging. It was very limited for just interactions one-on-one. But now we suddenly got this new way to explore, communicate. Affordable mobile internet access started rolling out because now there was a demand for more bandwidth, huge advances in speed on cell phone networks, user-friendly mobile websites, HTML5, lots of back-end technologies were developed, partly to support this growth of mobile devices. When I talk about the 4th bullet here is something not to underestimate. Millions of trained individuals that know how to interact with this technology. How many of you have rolled out SAP or Oracle? Training is a pain. You have to train all these people of all these menus, these commands. And suddenly, this ecosystem is so contained, so powerful that almost needs no training. But that was kind of only became apparent after you had this out there. Over time, of course, more sensors were in place in that little device. And these are not just regular sensors, high-end sensors. And this is thanks to pushing of the iPhone and then its competitors, GPSs, gyroscopes, cameras, light sensors, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, RFID readers. So now we have everything in one place. And that kind of started giving the birth of big data. So all these things start convoluting. And now those barriers where I used to have to go to my computer, make the purchase, they were gone. I was going to be in the aisle. And I just could decide at that moment in time if I wanted right there from that retailer, or I wanted from Amazon, or wanted from their website that was cheaper. Initially, actually, retailers, I remember this story, I think it was when Amazon just launched the scanner from the phone, that retailers were hiding the barcodes, right? Because they didn't want them to scan easily the price. It's the opposite. You should embrace the price and just match it in the store. Anyways, but that's another story. So there's all these other things that started breaking these barriers. And that's when the buying process changed. And it changed also by combining those technological aspects with 3 business models I'm going to point out that explain the future of city logistics. One, of course, is Amazon. Just going to give you a couple of key statistics there. So launched in 1995, 14 years later, $75 billion of sales. We have another very important company that we do not associate with city logistics, but has to do with the notion of ability to share data, trust others on a mobile phone, and I'll talk more about that. And Facebook launches in 2004, has 1.3 billion users 10 years later. And then we have our last disruptor, all of them combined around the same time. And this Uber is the latest one, but Uber has been around since 2009. It's just, it was not in your city. Now it's in 53 countries and 200 cities 5 years later. So how will all these get together into being able to answer the question that I posed at the beginning? So what really Amazon showed is that people will buy online. You just have to give them the right tools for them to buy online. You have to make the process simple, affordable. You can compare products easily. We have an internal system at MIT where we buy products. It takes me 25 clicks to buy a stapler. And I could do the same thing in 1 click in Amazon, right? So it's easy, so there's no friction. So adoption of all kinds of products that people never thought are going to be possible. If you have asked me, and I'm lucky I did not give that talk, in 1997, will people buy shoes online? I will say never. You have to try them first. You have to smell them, feel them. It's not true, right? Most products have broken that barrier of being marginal early adopters into getting to the 9, 15%. And the more we buy, the more used we are to buy online. So this shirt I'm wearing, I did not buy it same-day delivery. But this, I bought it online. Why? Because now I know how to read these sizing charts. It used to be a pain, but now they have all these kind of measurements. I bought 2 or 3 of these shirts already. So now I know how to buy them. It takes me 2 minutes. I don't want to go to the mall. And more of that is going on. So most of these things means that e-commerce is really here to stay. But most importantly, we are all being trained on buying online. So that's really thanks to Amazon and its insane push for infinite diversity of products. So we could do it easily everywhere. Now we have Facebook, and Facebook, this is how 1+ billion users look like connecting to each other. But that's not what is interesting about Facebook. Despite that Chris doesn't like to use Facebook too much, 556 million people around the world use Facebook on their phones. Remember about that comfort level of giving your information in the phone? If you're in the store, you need to give the location. If you're with your friends, you can check into a place. You can communicate to others. You can ask others about what they think about this shirt. Does it look good on me? You can do whatever you want online, and you have a network of people that you used to be maybe connecting offline to make decisions that you can share with them. You know how to find trusted sources through Facebook, and Facebook sells you stuff as you walk through it. I was searching Uber Chowder last night to get that icon. This morning, I got a new Uber ad in my Facebook wall. That's a scary but true reality of the future, is that we have now so much information about yourself that we have given in that now the information can go both ways. And that allows for the new buying process. Now I can discover anywhere. That was just about to happen with the phones themselves. Search anywhere, buy anywhere. That's just because of the basic phone technology. But now I can request delivery anywhere because my sensors are advanced. I know how to use these things. I know how to zoom in and zoom out in the map. I can pick and put points. I can get the information, alerts, notifications, whatever I want. And now more and more companies, especially Amazon and other online retailers, are pushing to compete even harder to continue the growth. And they allow you all kinds of free services, Prime membership, infinite returns. You can return anywhere. But what we have not noticed is this happens mostly as long as you are in a city. And that's what I'm going to start connecting now. These 3 trends were the ones who got us where we are. Technology got us where we are, but the realization of the future of logistics in cities is because of density. Before, when all the investments were there on stores, and we designed supply chains that were very efficient in moving to those stores, online commerce developed these great systems combined with UPS, FedEx, DHL, to be able to deliver anywhere from the websites. But now when we have this buy anywhere, return anywhere, now we get back to the physical world of cities. And this mostly happens in city areas. Rural areas are going to get it too. But let me explain you why it happens in these cities. It needs to be convenient and affordable. If it's not convenient or affordable, no one will adopt it. So convenience. New York City. This is 65% of people in New York City commute primarily by walking or public transport. So in the past, if I wanted to purchase something that was big and heavy, I have 2 choices. Wait for the weekend when I get my car, or carry it on the subway back from the office. Of course, I had no choice. Most people probably would choose to do it over the weekends or off hours. But now if I could do it, I can stop by, do the shopping, and then get delivered at home. This makes sense. It's convenient to me. It's a walking city. And most cities around the world, except the big cities in the US, tend to have this similar profile. 50% or more people commute walking. So now you have an opportunity of convenience. It's not only price. Remember I mentioned that that Bed Bath & Beyond was 7 minutes away from where I live? That was serendipitous, but the average speed of travel in New York City is 10.9 miles per hour. So that is the whole New York City, all the boroughs. Now, if you look at Manhattan, it drops down to 6.5, 7 miles per hour. Let me give you what that means in terms of understanding the city as a place where logistics can happen. 7 minutes, those are those lines over there. That's how far you can drive in a car in 7 minutes, a cab. The city of New York has been collecting GPS data from cabs since 2002. There's great reports, and I encourage you to read them, that has all the travel speeds, how they have changed over time. And 7 minutes can roughly get you 1.27 miles. That's 6 kilometers, not squares, 6 kilometers. Radius, that's around 7 minutes. Population density of Manhattan is 25,000 people per square kilometer. So that means that within 7 minutes, you can reach 150,000 people in Manhattan. Let's do some numbers. Let's suppose these people buy a product once a month. You have 5,000 potential sales per day, 10% penetration of the market. 1%, 50 stops on a radius of 1.2 miles. Can you build a route around that? Absolutely, yes. 1 mile, 50 stops, potential stops. That's density in cities. That is the kind of environment where the potential of delivery happens. Interesting enough, this was in February, when they were doing the 1 hour delivery from Amazon, their warehouse is in the Empire State Building. They can reach within less than 20 minutes pretty much all the Manhattan area. That is density. And let me go flashback on our Crossroad 2012 presentation of the Megacity Lab. New York is not the most dense city in the world. It's actually, it's dense. Manhattan is very dense, but New York is not as dense. New York density area is around 5,000. Manhattan, of course, is 25,000. These are the other cities in the world. So this density makes same-day delivery, routing inside the city within very short time windows, combined with convenience and congestion, makes it viable. Viable from the consumer point of view, I'm walking, I don't want to take my car out, and makes it viable from the business point of view. I can reach lots of people very close, and I can deal with all the operational complexities like UPS does. And that's why I go back, flashback 2012, happened also in Europe with the automated packing stations in Europe, DHL. This is in Chile. We're doing the same research we do on the field for our project. And there was more and more of these packing stations. Again, density drives options for me to go and pick up products instead of me having for them to be delivered at my home. So density drives the convenience of offering more choices and makes it still profitable for companies. So what has happened since 2012? Something new happened. There's a plus and a minus. So when I went and talked about the city of New York, and I talk about this density is great, but the thing's demand is very random. It's highly variable. So even though I have this potential average demand we're hearing about this morning, how do you build a logistics system so you want to provide a consistent service, you have to look at the peak. And if you have these huge daily variabilities and these huge, even seasonal variabilities, how can you build a logistics service around huge variability, not only on demand, then you know that your supply needs are going to change dramatically. And there was not a clear solution, or at least none of us believed it could be done, even though it was written in the wall, that how can we balance, there's the opportunity to build density in logistics in cities. But now we have to build variability of supply of transportation services. And that's when we get the Ubers, Lyfts, Instacart, Postmates by providing flexibility on the supply of transportation. Now the whole equation closes. Now I can have enough profitability, and now I have a service that I can probably leverage to manage this variability of supply. And that's what they have been doing. And most of you, before I go to the Q&A questions, will say, but isn't Uber getting illegal? Isn't Uber being fighting all over the world? So I just preempted your question. So Uber is, of course, being fighting all over the world because it is considered to be illegal way of competition, unfair. So let me do another flashback. But this is a 1907 flashback. So that was no Crossroads. 1907, small company in Seattle starts delivering courier services for a few chains. They were getting telephone calls. The telephone was growing. They eventually convinced their customers not to have their own delivery persons, which have been having around for a long time. And they outsourced the delivery teams to this small company in Seattle. This company then bought other companies and grew to other cities. And in 1950 to 1970, it was a national company. But it was actually illegal to move freight between states because it was the Postal Service job to move it between states. It was not the private sector job. And the company fought for over 25 years to break the regulation that allowed this company to move between different states. Some of you know which company I'm talking about? UPS. So, sounds familiar? Whenever you come with a new service that breaks the current cost structure, first reaction is this is illegal, it's immoral. How can we people per hour? How can we move products between states? I have invested all this money in these warehouses at the post office. It's in the Constitution. It's our right, right? So UPS definitely, right? So this is, we're seeing the same path. By the way, UPS is very active in this space. They were here also last year, I believe, talking about what they're doing on e-commerce and online delivery because they see the writing in the wall. This is their story. Uber is the story of UPS, just played again in a smaller scale. Uber is not the story of us. It's the story of a new way of doing logistics. So let me answer the first two questions. That was easy because this is the present. So is this the near future? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes, but it's going to get even worse than the diagram that I showed you at the beginning. Buy online, pick up in store, that's how we call it in the US, BOPIS. They call click and collect in Europe. That's going to keep happening. Now retailers have figured out that the way to compete is to use that infrastructure for multiple purposes, more technology in-store aisles, more technology inside the store. We have more services coming in, more automatic package stations to give flexibility of delivery. We have Amazon putting lockers in 7-Eleven. We have Nanjing in China opening the largest scale of automatic package stations. More home delivery is going to happen. I use Instacart almost once a month now because that's every week I have to go and do shopping. But there's this one week that I'd rather not do shopping because the weather is bad. I'm lazy, I'm busy, I have to prepare a talk for Crossroads. It's better for me, right, to just go online and buy from Instacart. They have all my history and they buy automatically. It's one click and my groceries are in my doorstep 2 hours later. They go, I'm literally 5 minutes from where I live, but I'd rather pay $3 than go 5 minutes to the store. I know it's crazy, but that's how humans work. There's Prime memberships or similar things going on where you just pay ahead of time, so you don't have to worry about this. And we all have used it. I use it. I'm a big Prime member. I probably are the ones who make Amazon lose money. There's all kinds of sensors, alerts. I'm used to know alerts. My phones are great to manage these alerts. I can prioritize them. I can dismiss them. I can highlight them. I'm trained. So more and more services can be embedded into my ecosystem without me feeling another application. I'm used to having 100 apps anyways. What's 101? Why can I only get Uber chowder in cities? Well, first of all, you have to have illegal seafoods. But if you have illegal seafoods, even then, it's really all about density. Density is logistics. That's what makes it profitable. Now, there's another step, is you may not be able to get 1 hour delivery, 2 hour delivery, but you can get a pickup in store, and that's going to happen very quickly because that just bolts in naturally into the current infrastructure. But the kind of dynamism that we're seeing is mainly centered around cities. It's all about density and congestion. If we get rid of the congestion, I'm not sure, maybe logistics will change. So what else lies ahead in city logistics? So the near future, we are living it. Embrace it, make the most out of it. There will be some consolidation. How about a little bit beyond? What lies ahead in logistics? So this is the mandatory slide in every logistics talk between now and 2020. So I'll start putting in. So is this the future, right? So we have great news, right? A couple of days ago, the FAA approved finally some testing of drones. So drones are here, and I'm going to say this is not the future. Now, I'm being taped, and I'm a big Amazon customer, so I love Amazon. Yeah? But this is probably not the future of city logistics. You will have, I'm sure there'll be a role of drones, and as soon as they have the service, I'll be the first one to buy one thing just to try it and get a drone into my house. But this does not mean this is going to be the scale-up solution. So what is the scale-up solution for city logistics? So you've seen this picture, or a variation of this picture, of the problem with cities that we have the space kind of set. If you're China and you're building new cities every year, no problem. You can plan them new and go ahead and plan them well, and we wish you well. But most of us are already stuck in the city the way it is. And the more cars are in the city, that means more congestion. So more cities realize that this picture is a reality. So to move this amount of people and this amount of space, if all of us have cars, so they invest a lot in public transport. They try to use less space, and they're going to continue to do even more over the years. And they know if we have bikes, even better. People want to be healthy. They want to live until they're 90 years old biking around. We want to be like the Dutch people. So they have more bike lanes so we can move and give more choices because congestion, remember 10 miles per hour, that's average in New York City. 7 miles per hour is probably the reality. Walking is 3 miles per hour. Biking is around 6 or 7, so you're better going on a bike if you survive. So, so this is the kind of the trend, right? So cities are going to continue to shrink infrastructure to favor the things that use that infrastructure better. And even with the current ownership, I mentioned New York, there's a number of cars per 1,000 residents. So New York has 210 cars per 1,000 residents. That's why so many people use the public transport, because people cannot afford a car. It doesn't make sense for them to have a car. With cities like Mexico City is a little bit higher, but then you have the densities, how many cars you have per square kilometer. Of course, you have not enough roads, so there's all these huge densities which drive congestion. So that's why people want to move more easily, and cities are investing more and more in public transport. Public transport is usually used in very uneven ways. So this is a study we're doing here with Professor Marullo, who's not here, from Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. And this is one of the trunk lines that move inside the city that connects the outskirts into the downtown of Rio. And those, of course, are the peak hours of commute, and they are unavoidable. I mean, you need to have them. Those are meant for moving people. But off-peak hours, this infrastructure is not being used. Now, could this be used for freight? Can we start thinking of true intermodal urban freight transportation? And maybe we think right now it's crazy, But when we don't have any space, well, one is drones, which we can fly over them. But the other one is more, let's look at what we have. How can we use it differently? So this has been around thought process for quite some years. It actually been piloted in many places in Europe, especially with the tram infrastructure. They invest in billions of dollars, and then trams became obsolete. They have tram lines all over the place. They can use trams for freight. This is Volkswagen moving some logistics into the city in Germany. So that's one option. The problem with this option is it requires lots of investment of capital to make the stations friendly for freight and people. So I foresee this being a little bit farther down the road. But there's another choice. And these other choices are bikes. Who lives in a city that has bikes? Bike sharing systems are becoming quite popular for many reasons. They're trendy, but they're also healthy. And this is the number of bike sharing fleets, especially look at the emerging markets, Mexico City, China, Beijing, Shanghai. Those are the congested cities. Remember, the future is not only the US, it's Europe, Asia, on the urban side. So we have lots of these bikes. Now, if we walk, there's a station right here, right now. If we walk outside, all the bikes are going to be parked. Why? Because you're all here. You're working, you're doing your job, we're enjoying a great day. So the bikes are pretty much unutilized most of the day. But again, you build for peak infrastructure. So you can use bikes, but at the same time, you're opening infrastructure just for bikes. New York has lane for bikes. Boston has lane for bikes. You have all these lanes going on. So let me introduce you to one of the new projects that we're developing. This was a design developed by the Media Lab. And this is an autonomous bike. Autonomous cars, old. 1990. Autonomous bikes, that's the future. Why bikes are autonomous? First of all, if you don't want it to be autonomous, no problem. You can ride it. It has helps you with the, there's an electric motor that helps you be more powerful, and you can go uphill. It has a limit of 20 kilometers per hour, so no worries, you cannot do any damage. It's kind of a friendly, it has these nice mechanisms, carbon exterior, it has protected you with the rain, you have the infrastructure. And of course, being MIT, is being designed so you can have an app, and you can call the bike. So I want my bike, come to me. Wait for me outside. I'm done. I can check my email while I go with the bike. But probably I will drive it. Then I'll drop it. Yeah? And then somebody else calls the bike. So I need less bikes, but I need to move them around. But even if that happens, that bike will be idle most of the time. So that's what we're doing with the Media Lab. What if we use those bikes to move with packages? Instead of them being idle, since it's autonomous, we can put packages and we can move them around. And we can do deliveries between stores, we can balance inventory, we can do all kinds of things we want. I'm sure you can see the picture. Well, this bike is a bike with 4 boxes on it. So it's autonomous, right? So I can also do an on-demand delivery. I can have small hubs of cities. I can do parts of the delivery. I can do same-hour deliveries. I can have the bike wait for me for my package if I have a courier. And we were with some of my team in New York on Friday, actually talking to a courier about these bikes. And we were talking, well, what happens if people steal the packages, right? It's the first thing that most people think about. And it's interesting, but these bikes, because of the speed, they don't use lasers, which is the problem with most of the autonomous vehicles. They use actually video recognition. It's much easier because the speed of travel is much less, but it's great for security. If you steal a package, we'll have a picture of you. And we'll probably have also your DNA, everything from the bike right away, so no worries. Yeah, we'll be able to track you down and get your package back. So this is the kind of project that we're developing, is how to design these really innovative future city systems where you can plan these bikes. You have to plan them, right? You have to move them around, to use the infrastructure. That's more like the kind of futuristic vision of urban deliveries. But it all comes down from this density, this convenience, this familiarity with online commerce, mobile phones. All that combined is making that these solutions are really a possibility moving forward. And that's what I have to do a little of if you're interested about this, talk to me. This is what we're doing now, these future urban logistics networks. And talk to me is not talk to me. It's talk to the people that work with me. You know, I just do nothing. I just come here and talk, right? And tell you what we're doing. And some of them are here, so do you mind raising your hands? People that work on the lab. So they're on this row over here, so you can corner them. They can tell you everything they know about PEVs. That's the very lack of marketing name of that bike, PEV. We have to find a better name, so any suggestions are welcome. And that's what I want to talk about today. Thank you so much.
Who would like to ask the first question? Actually, the third question, all right? Or maybe the second one. That was the first question. Oh, Daniel.
Yeah, hey Edgar. I was wondering. So I'm Daniel Steenick from MIT. So anyway, I was wondering, are there any additional infrastructure needs that cities will need coming up in the future? These mega cities, at all? Have we thought about that, or is it more utilizing the infrastructure that we have to the best we can?
I think that most of the existing cities were more on the using the current infrastructure the best we can. And that's why sharing of all this existing capital is where the future lies. Sharing bikes, sharing cars, sharing trains, sharing buses. Sharing those is what really is needed. In the past, that sharing was very complicated, convoluted. We didn't know how to communicate to each other in an efficient way. And sharing is increasingly possible. And I think that's thanks to cell phones, basically, that the sharing capabilities of a city are much higher than in the past. And if we add on that autonomous vehicles, and one of the reasons we think that like the bikes are a little bit better as a first mover of autonomous vehicles is that bikes are less threatening. You know, you're afraid of a big car moving in the highway with no one. A little bike, if they hit you, you just get out of my way and you keep moving, you're not gonna die from this little bike. So there's a little bit more of acceptance as well. So those kind of, maybe some of those new conveyances in cities may have a role where you can use them in a more selective way. But I think sharing infrastructure is really for the old cities. Now, you can always think of building super long, flying cars, always an option. Going underneath cities again, and more subways, always an option. But those are just too large investments, and I think we have lots of opportunities just on the infrastructure itself that exists.
Hi, I'm Liz Dorr. I work for CSX. I spent most of my life in smaller cities, Richmond, Jacksonville, and we're slower to adopt things like Uber, even Grubhub, et cetera. You talked a little bit about rural and big cities, but what do you see for some of these smaller cities?
Patience. It's a little bit about density. I think that it becomes about, we're in the stages of these investments where there's a little bit of risk being taken. Most of these services are not yet profitable. You are just building the capabilities. And until they have more information about what it takes to make one of these systems profitable, I think they're going to find adjusted solutions for those. I mean, look at the speed that Uber is moving. We're talking about 200 cities in 5 years. So they have a lot of, let's say, learning to happen. So in the rural areas, I expect this to be more just on the fringes, just because there's not enough density. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to get there. It's just going to have a different shape or form, less services, maybe only on weekends. I mean, a little bit more restricted, not as dynamic because there's not enough demand. So on the other hand, I think retailers have a big opportunity to use their retail infrastructure to provide new services local to the community around those rural areas. You have stores everywhere. You can pair them with schools or high schools in the region to provide some of these delivery services, and you can still provide those kind of services. But that will take a little bit longer just because there's a lot more risks if you go into that direction. So I cannot give you a date, well, maybe a date where when I have to come back to talk about all this again. 5 years after that, that's when it's going to be done.
Hi, Edgar. This is Horacio Mbola from Home Depot in Mexico. A couple of questions. What is the current status of the autonomous bike project? And have you been approached by any of the big e-commerce companies?
So one, you cannot talk about this bike. It's still not being released. Of course, I just talk about it. So the bike is, the prototype is going to be, the first bike arrives in MIT campus in the summer. So did they say summer still? Summer, June? In June, we're going to have the first bike with all the electronics. So, but believe it or not, the electronics are the easy part. The professor that does autonomous vehicles at MIT, that was part of this project, he said, this is easy. A bike? I can do it in my sleep. So this bike is less than $10,000, so it's still expensive, but it's not. But it's expected to go very quickly down in price. So the first prototype is going to be here in the summer, and we expect to have the manufacturing is already happening. So in terms of a city that uses the bikes, that's a discussion. So after the summer, you can come here and touch the bike, right? Ride the bike and feel about the bike. That's where we're going to start approaching the e-commerce companies, because at this stage, no one believes that the bike can actually exist. So I was hoping to have the bike here with me, but it was not ready. So the bike is going to be ready in the summer. So by the way, I'm only working on the algorithmic side of the bike, the part that does the boxes. The design of the bike is done by mechanical engineering, the Media Lab, electrical engineering of MIT, and we're just a team of people that are trying to use the most efficient of this technology. So that's going to be around very soon.
Dave Friedson with Evergreen Packaging. So regulation and liability are such a major cost component of all modes of transportation. How does that weigh into the future that you're seeing?
Yeah, so that was actually most of the time on our meeting in New York last week was about that. Worker compensation is 30 to 60%, depending on the industry, 30 to 40% of the cost of transportation. And that's why, for example, courier services that are people-driven courier services are not as competitive, let's say, as Uber, because Uber doesn't have the liability aspect as well defined. So it's a big problem. I think it's going to happen. It's going to be negotiated in both directions. I think some of the liability is going to go down. So I didn't know this, but in New York, you cannot have a biker being a contractor. You have to be an employee. A truck driver can be a contractor, but a biker cannot. An autonomous biker, I'm not sure, yeah, but so there's a little bit of that negotiation. This negotiation came back, in the 1950s when they were negotiating some of these liability issues, and I think that it's going to come down some of the liability issues for traditional carriers as they negotiate with cities, and it's going to go up as well on the, let's say, the more crowdsourcing-based services. But if you think about the moment in time where we are, we're only just getting started, that extra cost is probably going to be a wash once you look at the enough density and penetration. If you have 70, 80 stops, you have a UPS route or a FedEx route. It's 80 stops. If you have an 80-stop dynamic routing with crowdsourcing, you pretty much can cover those extra costs. It's a matter of time. I think it's a bit of negotiation. And it will be in both ways. Reduce the cost on liability and increase the cost on some of these services. Right now, they probably are a little bit below what they should be.
Hi, Chris Carr, Silla Energy. Just wanted to ask you a little bit more about what your idea for a business model was. If this was something that you thought someone would buy a bike, is it something where a company might buy a fleet of them and rent it out hourly? What your ideas on that were?
So we have not gotten that far. We're still figuring out how many bikes we need for Cambridge, and we still do not know how many. But these kind of services, because of the capital investment, even though they're just, let's say, $5,000 or $4,000, you need hundreds of them to be the system to be more effective, which makes it more of I will not say utility, but more like a private-public partnership. You need some sort of right-of-way, some sort of understanding of the rules of the road. So at the beginning, you're probably more in partnership with cities, like most of these city bike-sharing systems are, where there's a private entity that is an operator that has some sort of contract with the city for X years while they figure out the details. And the role of the private industry is to maybe get either subsidized rates to use some of that by providing the capital up front. So I don't think we have a clear business model more than we need a partner from the city, we need a partner from the companies, because we need to, companies are using it. We're not there yet, I guess in summary. I do not foresee this being like airline industry, that you have 5 competitors of bikes in the city. Or maybe you get there, but I just don't see it in the short term. I see it more like our bike sharing systems. One company gets a contract, gets a bid, builds the infrastructure in joint partnership with the city. Later on, maybe more new models are brought in. But in the short term, I don't foresee anything more exciting than that. Now, marketing of your brand in the bikes, anytime. So that we can talk.
Naresh Rajana with PepsiCo.
Yeah.
As we start deploying some of these autonomous vehicles for managing the last mile logistics, how do we envision the product return process to work? And also, how do we satisfy the customer's need of trying out different items before accepting the one they want as they try in the big box stores?
Good. So a couple of things. I probably didn't mention this too much, but these bikes are electric bikes. So let's say energy efficient bikes. Their battery packs are much smaller and they can charge very quickly. So let's say they're very efficient and environmentally efficient. So going back and forth to your house 5 times until you get the right pair of shoes, no problem for the environment. Now, congestion and traffic, there's another thing in capacity. So how do I see, I think that we just are getting better at buying online. It's just that we're not that good. There's always a return process. I think the return process of clothing, the return rates of clothing online are double the ones that are in retail, so definitely still a big part of it. But that's what we signed for. And the other part of the question was, how do we see these bikes helping the return process? Yeah, so some of the things that I did not mention about the bike system, we're still designing the freight component of it. We're gonna need hubs where there's some sort of people. But those hubs do not need to be dedicated hubs. They don't need to be like the post office hub. It could be a store next where you are, like in Europe, that there's several places where you can get deliveries. It's only a few packages you're gonna get in your neighborhood. There could be like a service provided by a retailer where you can leave the packages and then pick them up on your way home. So the return part of that can be managed that way. You can also schedule these bikes. You can say, I'm gonna be in that place at 2 p.m., meet me there, and we can plan for that. We can send you alerts if you're not there. You can tell me where you are not, charge you more if you want the bike to wait for you. So once you get into the autonomous cycle, the biggest problem for us is more, will we have enough capacity to satisfy all those immediate requests? So we have to put some discipline. The discipline needs to be done through hubs, and these hubs need to be small hubs. The basement of this building over here, you don't have to build new infrastructure. You need some crowdsource-based worker, someone that comes and helps you with the bike for, you pay them by the hour. And you have some sort of big hubs, like normal city hubs, to move freight and consolidate freight. So if you think of this a schematic of a city, imagine this would be like some major hub in a neighborhood where you get most of the packages. Then you have smaller hubs in different places where you can do transshipments and have people helping via crowdsourcing, I could imagine. But you will need some people anyways to manage some of these transitions. And that could be you as a consumer, or it could be someone we hire on demand as needed. Everything is planned with information. So that's kind of our vision. Again, it's very much in shape. And where is Andrea and Adriana? I'll put them here in the spot. They're right here. You can talk to them. They're supposed to give me a report tomorrow about how these hubs are meant to be designed. So they should have already some knowledge. This is really ongoing work, so I cannot give you some of the details because we don't know them.
What other questions might you have? Oh, Stephanie. Hold on.
So my question is in regards to Stephanie Busher from MIT. So this is great, and you had just talked about having a hub where you could have people load the bikes, but would you be primarily using these to start for B2B transactions where you could ensure that there was someone there to receive the bike?
Yeah. So when we first met with the Media Lab, they were thinking of some big robot arm that will unload the bikes, but that was too much more investment. So yeah, so you need some sort of meeting point with the customer. But remember, it's like Uber. You have to meet the car somewhere, right? But you can tell them where to meet you and how to meet you. So, and we are all being pretty good, well-trained to learn how to meet people dynamically. So imagine that this is just a dot, and we can tell you, right, I'm going to be in my office in the next 2 hours. Great, perfect. We pre-position the package. There's all this knowledge. This is what is exciting for logistics. We get all this information about how you buy, when you buy. We know when your order is supposed to come. The package come at night. We can use the bikes to move it closer to either your work or your office place before the time comes. And when you're ready to get your package, you just call the bike. I'm going to be here for the next 2 hours. Please come with my package. Once you're there, you get your alert, you come down, you get the package, you come out. There will be some code so you don't steal other people's packages. We'll take your picture, and then we will keep going. So we are thinking a very dynamic system, not as much as it's like what UPS is trying to do with My Choice and FedEx also, where they're trying to give you as much information, keep you up to date all the time, so we don't miss that moment where you are, where you should. We don't want you to move to another place. We will go to you. That is the vision. Now, this requires much more algorithms, much more planning, much more logistics, more than for people. For moving people from one point to the other, it's easy. You just call the bike, gets to you, you drive, and you're done. For logistics, I have to coordinate with you. That's why this is, as much as it is a people movement system, is a freight movement system, because that's where all the intelligence needs to come. Planning, forecasting, right interfaces to get to you and meet you, the right incentives for you not to have that bike waiting for you for 2 hours, and using a resource. So that's kind of the interesting parts of this. But yes, that's the vision. The vision is more very smart, proactive looking, so we can give you the bike such that you think that you had no friction at all. I was in my office anyways. Oh, the bike just came. That's the kind of experience we want. Rather than, I have to go to this place to get this. No, we have to plan it ahead of time. There will be a few hubs in between.
One last question.
Rob Fitzpatrick from Nectar. Edgar, thanks for that. As you articulately pointed out, both UPS and Uber have faced transitional challenges with local governments, etc.
Yeah.
Have you done any work on the impact in reduction of congestion or similar metrics that you might be able to use to sell to local governments?
So the results we were reviewing yesterday on the reduction of CO2, we expect huge reduction of CO2 just because we moved to electric. So that's, let's say, not an issue. Congestion is slightly different because congestion has to do what kind of infrastructure you have for the bike system. For example, in the Cambridge area, there's dedicated lanes of bikes. So in that sense, a new system of bikes, it will increase congestion of bikers. Hopefully they'll be nice to the bike, will not push it around, but it will be a little bit of a challenge, less of a challenge. If you go to New York City where you do not have bikes lane systems, then congestion is an issue. Now, we were seeing, again, I'm here expanding a bit beyond my knowledge, but we were looking at some of the dynamic algorithms for how close can a bike drive behind a car. And it's just a matter of inches. So can it stop quickly? Yes, it can stop that quickly because there's not enough mass in the bike. A car is a different animal. So we think that it's more about making sure that people around the bike are comfortable with seeing those bikes moving around and you don't try to hit them or cross them or something. Yeah? But the bike itself can be very quickly moved inside, through traffic without creating a lot of disruption. But we don't have enough data. The first piece we're going to do is here in Cambridge, and we're going to hopefully get some more details that we can share. But yes, CO2 has been our main sell point. Congestion, less so. We're only now building the simulation models that show that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Blanco.